Hello everyone, this is Tamara, your courtroom companion. This is the channel where we talk about narcissism, custody, and family court. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you're a faithful follower, welcome back. I'm glad to see you all here. And in today's video called The One Word That Narcissists Hate to Hear, but You Have to Say It Anyway, this is a video all about what that one word is, which I'll share with you. I'll also share with you a strategy that you can use when you have to use this word with a narcissist that I've used frequently, and it works. So I'll share with you that strategy, and then I'm going to share with you two examples of this kind of strategy in place, because inevitably you have to say this word to a narcissist from time to time, and when they rear their ugly head, this is a strategy that you can use. As always, what I say here is just my own opinion, my own experiences, my own journey around narcissism, custody, and family court. So please don't take anything that I say here as mental health advice or legal advice. You should seek professionals for that if you are in need of support in those two areas. I'm just sharing information that I hope will be helpful to you if you're dealing with any of those topics, narcissism, family court, or custody. And I'm just sharing resources and experiences, and I'm just praying that they're helpful to you. But before we jump into the content, please do hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you will be notified when I upload my content. Okay, so let's jump right in. So what is the one word that narcissists hate to hear? The word is no. And by no, I mean any form of non-compliance, not doing what they say, not accepting their control over your life or over you or over your children. Anything in the realm of essentially the narcissist not getting their way, I categorize that as no. They have to hear no from time to time. It's normal in relationships to, feel a sense of rejection sometimes, to feel disappointment, to feel sadness. That's normal in everyday life, but narcissists can't accept no or anything in that realm of them not getting their way. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is when you have to say no, how do you do it, and what can you do to overcome the challenges that you're inevitably going to face when a narcissist does not get their way. They might feel rage and anger, and you'll be the recipient of that usually. If you're their target, they're going to maybe give you the silent treatment from time to time, and I'm going to link a video above in the cards of a video I did on the silent treatment, all about the silent treatment and how to navigate through that with a narcissist. But that's definitely one of their strategies that they employ when they don't get their way. You also might be the recipient of a bunch of badgering by the narcissist, or blame or shame. These are all inappropriate, emotionally unhealthy ways of dealing with sadness and disappointment that comes as a natural part of life. And so, when you have to say no, or when you know that the narcissist is going to be upset with you for whatever reason, just know that there's going to be all these emotional consequences that come. And you can choose to react to them or not. That's like a whole nother video, but just know that that's going to come. But I'm going to share with you now kind of a strategy that I use when I know I have to say no, or to, basically piss off a narcissist, for lack of a better phrase. So it's a 3-part strategy. So part 1 is I always make sure that what I'm saying no to, or what I'm doing that's going to disappoint the narcissist, is because it is in our child's best interest. I don't just do it just to say no. I do it because it's in our child's best interest. So as long as you're good with that, that's like part 1. Just know you're doing the right thing. 2 is if you have to interact with the narcissist, this would be part 2. Like, let's say you are in a co-parenting relationship with a narcissist. You might have to, if you share legal custody, you might have to interact with a narcissist to discuss something related to your children. So part 2 is to approach it as you would any normal human being, knowing that the person, if they're a narcissist, is not going to react normally. But if it's part of your court order that you share custody, for example, you have to kind of interact with the narcissist. So, or if you have a boss that's a narcissist, you might have to interact. So part 2 is like, approach them as normal, as you would any normal person that's going to have a normal reaction to something you're going to say that's also normal. Part 3 is what I call go around the narcissist. That is going to take creativity. It's going to take thinking out of the box. It's going to take, just some ingenuity on your part to go around the narcissist. And I've always kind of thought, there's got to be a way to kind of resolve whatever it is we're dealing with. There's got to be a way. And when I began to think, what are the other alternatives? That's when I sort of came up with this analogy of kind of going around them. You talk to them, and if it doesn't work, you got to go around them. Like, don't let them stop you from doing what you need to do. And so I'm now going to share with you 2 examples of how I did this in my own life. So the first scenario happened many years ago. Our son belonged to the same pediatrician office since he was born. And at some point in like 15 or 16, I don't remember the date, but I became friends with one of the nurses in that pediatrician office. Her son went to the same school as my son. They were in the same grade. They hung out together. And so I started to befriend her, and I would invite her son over to my house frequently to hang out with my son. I would have them spend the night together. It was just, it seemed like a really good friendship and a really good thing for the boys to get together. So it worked out fine. Her son began to be on the same sports teams as my son, and my ex coached our son's games all the time. And as part of that, and as part of them being in the same school community, being at the pediatrician's office, she sort of became friends with him as well, which is, whatever, it's fine. But what I saw kind of evolve, and this took me a while to realize, is that she couldn't be friends with both of us. She chose a side. And I'll tell you how it happened a little bit. Not all the details, but some of it. So I invited her son to go on vacation with my son and I. And she said yes. And we were going to go. And then all of a sudden he couldn't go for whatever reason, And I had said to her through text, I was disappointed, but it's fine. I said, but just let me be the one to tell my ex about this vacation. Because up to this point, I hadn't told my ex that we were going on vacation. And if I'm going to be out of state, I typically would tell him. So I said, just keep it on the down low. Let me be the one to tell him. Because I didn't want her in the middle of our custody stuff. So come to find out, my ex and I had a disagreement around whether or not, when I told him we were going on vacation, we had a disagreement around whether or not that was my true vacation time. So anyway, as always, he took me to court over it. And in the hearing, he presented the text message that I gave to my friend that said, please keep it on the down low because I want to be the one to tell him. Like I was trying to keep her out of our drama. And here he has a copy of that text. And in that moment, I realized that, okay, she chose a side. She was not able to be impartial. She was not able to be both of our friends. And from that moment, I knew that I could not, interact with her any longer on a friendship level because she chose a side, and it's not safe to interact with her if she's going to be his friend because her loyalty obviously belonged to him. Nonetheless, I had to figure out a way to go around the narcissist so that our son was not put in the middle of this. And so at the time, I had legal custody over medical. And so I knew that I would have to go to him and tell him that our son could no longer be in this pediatrician office because I didn't feel that it was the best for our son. I didn't want that kind of drama around his medical care. I didn't think I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. And so I went around the narcissist. Instead of sort of dealing with all of that, I went around him and I changed our son's pediatrician office. That's what I mean by going around them. Yes, I had to talk to him. Yes, I had to, explain a little bit about what I was doing. And then he began to write back and said, is he not getting the right medical care? Is he not this? And I didn't feel that it was appropriate to get into all of that with him. What I felt was best for our son is that our son's medical care be free of this kind of adult drama. And he placed our son, in my opinion, smack dab in the middle of it, and so did she. So I went around him. That might not be an exact example of what I mean, but I saw that as I had to go around the narcissist and do what was best for our son, rather than continue a battle with him over whether or not our son should stay in this pediatrician office or not, whether or not this friend could be impartial or not, whether or not I could trust the care there. I didn't feel that it was best to go into too much kind of explaining, and the court allowed me to make these kinds of decisions. And I knew that it was in my son's best interest. So that was part one. I knew it was in my son's best interest not to be involved in the drama. 2, I went to him and told him what I was going to do. And then 3, I went around him and did what was in our son's best interest. The second example actually happened this week. So we were having a special family event here at my home to celebrate a birthday for a family member. And our son goes to a youth group on Wednesday nights at his dad's church. His dad is the youth pastor there at his church. And the youth group is in the evening, and I knew I would be having guests at that time. And our court order says that I'm to bring him and pick him up to this youth group, but it's not considered a visit with his dad, meaning, and they even spelled it out in the court order, that if there's no church, there's no visit. So it's specifically so our son could attend this youth group. And all through COVID, all of 2020 and all through 2021, everything was virtual for the youth group. So he attended online. 2 weeks ago, they started going back to the in-person youth group. And so this was week 2 of that. So I let him know that I wasn't able to bring him to youth group. I didn't tell him why. I just said, I can't bring him. But if there's a virtual link, he can attend that way, or you can pick him up and drop him off. So he said, well, I need to pick him up at 4:30. And he said, and can he spend the night? And trying to be flexible, I said, fine, but not to the 4:30. I said, you can pick him up at 6, because we were having our special sort of birthday stuff between like 4:30 and 6. And I said, you could pick him up at 6. And then he could spend the night. It would be an extra treat, for both of them to see each other overnight. I thought I was being flexible. And because I said that he can't go at 4:30, that's the no. He received the no. I wasn't giving him everything he wanted. I was trying to be flexible with the parts I could. And he said, well, then the court order says you need to bring him. And I said, well, I can't bring him. So if he can't participate virtually and you can't pick him up at 6, then he's going to have to skip this week. And then he started sort of threatening me about he's got to come. It's part of the court order. And I said, well, the court order doesn't say you get an overnight, but I'm being flexible in order to get him there. So he tried to take me through all this drama, text after text, and I wasn't going to get involved in all of it. And so I thought to myself, okay, I have to say no to the 4:30. I have to go to him, which is to find out if there's something he can do on his end. And it's obvious he doesn't like to hear no. So what I thought was, okay, how do I go around him? And I said to his dad, I said, maybe there's another parent who could pick him up and bring him home. So I went around him. I knew in my heart, knowing the patterns of his behavior, the only reason he couldn't pick him up at 6 is because that's when I suggested it. And I have hundreds of examples of that where I suggest a time and he doesn't agree. If I say 4:30, he wants 4:45. If I say 3:30, he wants 4. It's a pattern, and I'm not going to play in that pattern. So I had to do what's in our son's best interest, which is there was a special birthday thing happening up until 6. I wasn't going to allow him to miss that. But I was still going to not make him go to the rest of the birthday celebration in order to get him to youth group. So I was trying to do everything I could that was in our son's best interest. I was even letting him go to spend the night, like I said. So then when he started threatening me about this is the court order, you've got to get him, and actually Our court order says that there are certain stipulations if he doesn't come to the youth group. It can be for special things at school, like if he has an exam. It even says family functions, special family events. So I knew I was right by the court order, that the court order values these family events for our son. So I knew I was okay there. So I just went around him and said, I guess I'll have to check with another parent to see if they can bring him, since you and I are not able to do it. And then he wrote back another few texts about, that I'm involving other people and it's unnecessary. So he heard no again, and he's still shaming me. He's still blaming me for not doing it. And the long and the short of it was, I didn't have another parent to take him, and he missed going to the youth group, and he missed an overnight with his dad. And this is not the first time where his dad has missed out on extra time because he refuses to be flexible. And so it's unfortunate, but it was another way I had to go around him. But, I'm kind of used to going around him because he doesn't usually play well in the sandbox. He doesn't usually, he's not really flexible. But then he portrays himself to be flexible and saying, I said I would pick him up at 4:30. Well, youth group doesn't start until 7. So why would you pick him up at 4:30? Anyway, it's just more drama like that. But the point of all of those examples is that you sometimes have to say no. You have to sometimes not comply. You have to sometimes, not give the narcissist what he wants, but they're not used to hearing it. They want strict compliance to what they want. And if you don't do it, you've got hell to pay. But going around them often works for me. So that's what I wanted to share, just a couple of examples of how you can kind of work around saying no to the narcissist. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have other examples to share of when you've said no or when you didn't comply with what the narcissist wanted, we would love to hear about it below. Our community is a community where people are learning from each other and trying to come up with strategies to navigate family court, narcissism, and custody. And I really appreciate you sharing your stories below. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.